by the crowd is full. Money on my head, cause I'm lawless. Shaking on my lips, walking down this road. I roll late, get the same, ain't no debate. Cause rules are meant to break by the crowd is full. Get it.
일단 여기까지 올라왔는데 저희 골든 가디언즈를 만나게 돼서 좀 We are really confident we can beat any team now.
A date with destiny tomorrow for them against the Golden Guardians. Super 6-8 is going to do so much work.
打 GG 的话，我觉得会是一场很焦灼的比赛，因为我觉得他们实力跟我们其实差不多。
PSG has been slow and steady, wins the race.
因为他们中野好像之前在 PSG 待过，然後都是很强劲的外援。
제가 예전부터 준지아 선수가 되게 잘한다고 생각을 했고, 그리고 이제 한국 솔로 랭크에서도 되게 1등을 좀 자주 찍는 그런 모습이어서 되게 잘한다고 생각을 했는데 이제 PSG에 간 거 보니까 좀 기분이 묘한 것 같아요.
我觉得他稳定性比我更好一点，然后对，就是稳定性比较不容易会白给那种。
일단 팬분, 다른 분들이 생각하시기에는 저희가 떨어질 수 있을 거라 생각하시겠지만 근데 저희가 생각했을 때는 본선을 되게 쉽게 올라갈 거라고 생각을 해서 저희가 이기겠습니다.
我会全力以赴对付 GG 的。明天打完准备好收拾行李吧。
Welcome everyone to MSI 2023 live from the Copper Box Arena in London. Today is the last day of the play-in stage. As yesterday we said goodbye to R7 and Loud, and today one last team will join them and go home as the winner will make it to the main stage. I'm Long, I'll be joined by
on me?
and Medic. GB, how are you doing? That was an amazing sign.
Well, yeah, I'm feeling very humble right now, I guess. Yeah, how are you guys?
Very, very nice. I'm really happy to be with you on the desk, an LEC-esque desk today,
it's true.
Medic. Thanks for joining
It's not often I get to go into the analyst desk, but I'm looking forward to it today.
Yeah.
It's going to be a banger series, I'm sure.
Yeah, some people asked for it yesterday.
Yeah, that's true.
Here it comes, Medic on the desk. Today is win or go home for Golden Guardians and PSG Talon with the best of 5, and you qualify to the bracket stage. Lose and you will be eliminated. And here's a quick outlook at what the bracket stage competition looks like. In the bracket stage, the 8 teams are divided into 3 tiers, as you can see on screen right now. The Tier 1 and Tier 2 teams will each face a Tier 3 team, with the Tier 1 teams being on different sides of the bracket. No team from the same region can face each other in the first round. And with all this information in mind, Medic, can you run us through maybe some of the potential scenarios we could see here?
Well, there's a bunch of really exciting ones.
Yeah.
Things like JDG versus T1 in the first round is just absolutely absurd to me. Alongside that, imagine facing up against the loser of that in an elimination game in the next best of 5. It's going to be incredibly exciting. I think the way that it's formatted does mean that we'll get probably at least a couple of banger best of 5s in the first round. I mean, they should all be bangers, but I expect we'll see some of those really highlight matches in the first round.
And that's where you understand that the format is really, really hype, GB. Any matchup specifically that you were looking to see in the first round?
I mean, there's so many you could mention right in the end, but I think I'm looking specifically at Cloud9 Berserker potentially versus T1 Gumayushi, you know, 2 former T1 boys that could go up against each other. We've already seen an amazing performance by a lot of AD carries in the play-ins, and the level is just going to get more elevated the further we come to that bracket stage.
Oh, I love the EU LEC versus LCS rivalry, so I want to see Cloud9 and G2 in the first round. We'll see if that happens, because the draw show is today after the series, hosted by Frankie and special guest Odo Amne. Bracket stage starts in 2 days on May 9th. Now I want us to focus on the series we have today. PSG Talon versus Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians on the first side. Amazing Cinderella story. No one believed in them. In the LCS, I think they were the teams people had the least expectations from. They fought their way up in the playoff. earning their spot at MSI, and there's a lot of interesting stories on the side of every player in this lineup, GB.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a team that just really elevated with the competition too. The further they got into the tournament, the better they actually got. And I think they rallied behind some of the initiators, like Huhi specifically, down towards that bottom side. But it's just the fact that it's such a Cinderella story for pretty much every single player on that roster, and they're continuing the story now with their eyes set on the bracket stage.
Yeah, you look at 6-8. Last time he made MSI, he went to the semi-finals. It's been 7 years since he made it to an international competition. FLICKR as well, semi-finals at Worlds against Fnatic, and now is a resurgence of his career. Like, the stories are just echoed throughout the entirety of Golden Guardians.
And when you look at the newcomers also on this Golden Guardians lineup, River and Gory facing off against their old team.
True.
Amazing story here. So players know each other. They know their teams. They know the work process here.
That's the thing, like PSG or Golden Guardians Academy, you know, there's a lot of players coming from PSG going to Golden Guardians, but I think for sure that they are a team that had to rebuild a lot of their roster, actually pretty much everyone. It's not the same names that we're used to. Like, even River playing against his old team is not playing against old teammates in this regard. So it's really impressive and just a testament to the staff behind PSG as well, that they were able to replicate the success we've already seen from PCS and them.
Yeah, familiar with the structure, but not the players themselves. As you said, they found success in MSI 2021. Can they make it to the MSI bracket stage once again and have an amazing run? Do you think this lineup is capable of doing it, Medic? Because coming in today, it feels like PSG is the underdog.
I definitely agree that PSG are the underdog, but when you look at players like Junja, when you look at a player like Wako, who, if he is given the position to carry, can always carry the team, PSG play really well around these new faces. So I think there is an expectation that Golden Guardians should win, but I really wouldn't be surprised if PSG are able to take the series today.
And there's a specific matchup maybe we want to focus here again in the jungle, because tonight River will face off against his former team as he's fighting against Junjia in our feeder matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz.
Today's featured matchup, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz, sees River facing up against his old team. Having made his name in the PCS with PSG, it is now up to River to show he made the right decision, switching to Golden Guardians and beating his old region on one of the most important stages in League.
Oh, it's shooting fish in a barrel! Oh no, it's a slaughter! Golden Guardians ruthless in this game.
On the opposite side of the rift, we have Junjia, who has performed phenomenally this tournament. He's shown that he's ready to fill the shoes that River left behind.
Dasher will tank it. Gladly he will. The taunt comes out as well. Another for Wako. It's 3. PSG in the end will clean up the fight, and Loud are left wanting.
This marks the first best of 5 of this new MSI, and it's do or die for both teams.
我会全力以赴对付GG的。明天打完，准备好收拾行李吧。
Amazing video for this featured matchup, and also respect, banter, everything River versus Junjia, two backbones for their respective teams. GB, how do we expect things to shape up in the jungle today?
I mean, they've both just been pillars in the early games for their teams. You can see it a lot in the stats here from the kill participation at 14 minutes. Not just that, but you can see there's a slight edge to River in terms of how much time he spends just with the assist he's also got, and Junjia a bit of a power farmer as well.
Yeah, you know that these two players are the catalysts for their teams. Their ability to get in and influence the early game is vital, but as you said, I think the slight difference is that when I look at Junjia, I know if he gets ahead by himself, he can then dominate the game. Whereas with River, I expect a little bit more facilitation of the rest of the players on his team, which he does incredibly well.
And when it comes to the champion pool, maybe, and the differences we see in the jungle, GB, lots of shared picks. And I'm not surprised to see
That's the thing, right? Because both junglers here can be so flexible in terms of what their team need. We saw it yesterday with Junjia when he had the Galio in the mid lane. He was playing the Kindred around it, but both of them can be a Kindred player, can be a Viego player where they want to take charge in the jungle. They want to be facilitated, but they can also be set facilitators. You see the Sejuani on Junjia. You see the Vi as a shared champion. And the Krakens and, of course, Jarvan to come through. It's just two players who wants to be the carry, but can also be the carry or the player that makes your teams shine like carries.
Yeah, and I think these champion pools as well are kind of indicative of how these teams like to play. We see Golden Guardians a little bit more in the early game, trying to get those early game leads. Yes, they can play late game team fights very well, but what I expect from them are sizable gold leads before the 14-minute mark. They did it against Cloud9, they did it against FlyQuest in the LCS, and they've continued to show that here on the MSI stage.
Yeah, PSG here with the longest average game time of all teams at MSI, 5 minutes higher than the average. Doesn't surprise me when you see how this team drafts.
It's super interesting, right? Because you can see the goal difference at 14 minutes, which is often on average. PSG is the team that's more ahead, but their game time is way longer than Golden Guardians' average game time is. And it comes down to the fact that PSG as a team with their style likes to play a more slow-paced game, and Golden Guardians as well, specifically in their games against R7, was very much on the trigger, was not afraid to go for the dives. I think I was talking to you, Medic, and you were like, this seems a bit greedy, and I was like, wow, but they can pull it off.
And it did work for them, right? And I think that is the big difference that we'll see, right? Golden Guardians, when they get a lead, try to accelerate it, whereas PSG will suffocate. It's about denying the enemy team more than actually taking them off the map and then taking turrets and taking more objectives out of it.
Right. Let's focus on the other side of the Rift here and Golden Guardians, because yesterday Frankie caught up with Golden Guardians' assistant coach after their win against R7 in the Verizon Game Day interview.
I'm very excited to be joined by Charles from the coaching staff of Golden Guardians. So far, London is treating you incredibly well. Are you feeling good?
Yeah, we're adjusted. We flew in earlier than some of the other teams, so we took a bit of time to adjust to the time difference, but we're on a bit of a roll right now, so we're feeling it.
And what's your verdict on the team so far here in London?
We really want to play against like the main teams, ideally. We've already played against BLG, and that was a really fun experience. But yeah, I mean, we 2-0'd some of the play-in teams, so yeah, it's we just want to get to the next stage, ideally.
Are there any regrets so far? I mean, before we started recording, we did talk about the Morgana pick with Huhi in that third game against BLG. I mean, you just won one, you have the momentum. Why that draft?
When you're in that kind of situation, like the tension, the stress, I think after that game 1 and game 2, it felt like we tried to cheese them level 1, like the Zyra Khan level 1 and the Kindred invade. And then we felt like after playing the first 2 games as coaches, we said like, we actually think we're going on par with these guys. Like we don't need to get creative or anything. We ended up going Morgana, so.
So you did get a bit.
So maybe we did get a bit, but I will say Morgana was working really nicely into Vi for us in particular. And also the Zyra Khan, like we got through lane phase pretty well. There was one bot dive, I think everyone remembers early on, that we didn't communicate and didn't cover, and that really made that game 3 like pretty hard. I think if we covered it, it would have been a different story.
Huhi was known for creative and slightly strange picks, even when he was playing mid way back. We're going back to like 2019 and the CLG years and everything now. But he's obviously bringing it to the support role as well, and he's calling the shots in the server. I'm hearing maybe the power's going to his head. He's a sassy queen.
Yeah, I leaked that a bit. Jay,
he's having a lot of input, and he's obviously helping.
Oh, Jay, probably, if not, one of the best in-game shot callers I've ever worked with. And I was a player as well before this, so I've worked with a lot of people. But yeah, he is a bit sassy every now and again. I don't know if they leak our pre-game like champ selects like comms, but Jay, he comes with his strengths and weaknesses for sure.
Great interview and insights here from the assistant coach. And as he was mentioning some champions, I want to focus on the drafts that Golden Guardians have been building since the beginning of MSI. We see maybe not a lot of diversity in the champions they play, but in the way they approach draft themselves.
I mean, it's a bit of both, right? Because you can see it against the second game against BLG where they said, we don't need to get that creative to beat them. I'd argue you got a bit creative with a Yasuo and Gragas, and while it is a set combo we have seen in the past, it's not something you just bust out of nowhere. I think also you can see the standard stuff, of course, game 1 versus R7, which is pretty much everything you want on this meta.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the best picks that you could get on this meta. What I really like about the Golden Guardians drafting at the moment is it's very specific, and it's something we see more now that we have best of 3s and we're not just going through best of 1s, is that they were beaten by Elk predominantly in game 1 versus BLG, and then they said, okay, how do we kill Elk? How do we make sure that his life is a living nightmare? And they did exactly that, and it was what earned them the win, even though they were 4,000 gold behind in the early game.
And I think that's going to be very interesting today, because you can see there was an adaptation where the rest of the map had to bandage the fact that the bot lane of the enemy team will pretty much always get ahead. And I think that has been a weak point for Golden Guardians. Stixie and Hui has had good signs of life, but against the best of the best, they struggled. Going up against Wako today, who's been absolutely phenomenal, not just an AD carry, but as on Aphelios specifically, there is something you need to be worried about there.
Props to Hui, honestly. I just want to spend some time talking about him because he was very flexible in the LCS. He's flexible again here, this time around at MSI. One unique champion for each game. Medic, I know that you're a support enjoyer, so
I'm a huge fan of Hui. I think 4 LCS finals in a row, the guy is incredibly impressive. Obviously switching from mid lane as well, and I think that gives him just a little bit more mechanical nuance when it comes to playing enchanters. A lot of supports are very good at going in, playing Nautilus, playing Leona, playing Thresh, but often, often you want just someone who can stand a little bit further back and then see the windows where you can land a good Whimsy or where you can land a good bubble on Nami, and that's what Hui does really well in my opinion.
We'll see what Golden Guardians have been cooking for draft today, but let's see who the fans predicted to win in our MasterCard fan prediction. Each day you can head over to MasterCard Nexus on Twitter to participate, and for now Golden Guardians have 66.5% of the votes, PSG at 33.6%. I think it's logical. We said that PSG was the underdog coming in today's matchup, and of course they have the fans on their side.
I think Golden Guardians have just shown us a little bit more so far at MSI. I think PSG against G2 did have a good comeback, but they were still behind, and Golden Guardians have shown us that through an early game lead, they can take the game out of their opponent's hands. So I think I'd agree with the fans here.
Yeah, I just think in general, it's the fact that Golden Guardians, they're a bit more happy to have those resources and do something with them. When you see a team that just sits on it and wait, there is a window where teams can come back, and I think that's the thing that you have to look out for, because I think PSG are capable of getting wins, they are capable of getting leads, it's just how consistently can they do it.
We'll see the approach both of these teams take in today's first best of 5 at MSI 2023. That's all for us here on the desk. Let's send it over to Quickshot, Mark Z, and Videos for Golden Guardians versus PSG Talon.
Thank you so much, Laura. Welcome to the Caster Desk. We are moments away from picks and bans for the very first best of 5 here at MSI 2023. The thing that I want to definitely talk about is what will the priorities be here for the draft. I'm anticipating something like the FLICKR to be particularly important. We saw how much it meant to Wako. But for the Golden Guardians, they played a whole bunch. Hui, what else is he going to pull out the bag, Mark?
I don't know. He already pulled out his classic set. We've already seen the Amumu. The Rel got banned. He hasn't played that one yet on MSI stage, so maybe it'll be the Rel.
Will it be another unique champion, is the question. Do you think we'll see something different, or do you think we'll see something that he's brought out before?
He's, for context, not repeated a champion yet at MSI. I think he's due. I think he'll end up picking the same champion at least once in a best-of-5 series.
Well, we're going to find out. We're getting ready for draft between Golden Guardians and PSG. The winner will move on to the bracket stage. The loser will be eliminated. And right off the bat, that Aphelios we were talking about, quick shot, going to be banned away by Golden Guardians.
I mean, Wako's played that 5 games out of the 6. The only other AD he's played has been Lucian, so the near polar opposite to what we've seen from Hui.
And we also saw yesterday Loud taking the gamble, leaving the Kennen up, and still PSG grabbed the Aphelios first. So no surprise to that one banned. Also worth noting, this is the first coin toss Golden Guardians has won. Coach Anero, or GM Anero now, had let them down and lost every single coin toss thus far, but got it when it mattered.
Is the coin toss meta a really important thing there, Mark?
I mean, I like blue side. I generally would like to start on blue.
I mean, of the 2 sides GG have had an opportunity to select, one blue, one red. This time around, elected that blue side. Annie removed from the pool as well. No big surprises here. I do like that we've had a fairly diverse champion pool over the last couple of days. Quite a few different picks almost every single day. And Hui's definitely the guy that has been the most fun. The set, the Amumu has been absolutely great to watch. And that Lucian now banned away from Wako, so he'll have to play something different for the first time, Betty.
He certainly will. I'm excited to see what he brings out. My expectation would be something like the Jinx. Sticking more towards that traditional late scaling, hyper carry. The Vi being banned away is a little bit surprising by Golden Guardians. I was just about to say that while we have seen some diversity, the things that have stayed the same are this mid-jungle duo of Vi and Ahri, and something that Golden Guardians, I think, found a lot of success with yesterday. They were very good at playing around Gory, really setting him up for success in the early game. But they will have to go in a different direction. With the Kennen still up and available, you imagine the Golden Guardians could consider that as a first pick.
We'll see if they grab it. That is something that FLICKR played. Looked very good on it just yesterday. Had a pretty impressive performance. So looks like that's going to be snapped up right away. No surprise there.
What is the answer? Because we saw...
not Rise!
Yeah, we saw the attempt at Rise. Did not work out at all. River visiting that top lane a whole bunch and just getting FLICKR set up to carry the game. I also think yesterday River really read his opponents well, was absolutely ahead of the curve in every single play. Junjia going to have a task
There's
ahead
no
of
shot.
him.
There's no shot.
There's a shot, right?
No. To blind pick an Aurelia this early in the draft would be an incredibly confident play. I'm surprised that PSG are immediately responding with a top laner. You would expect jungle and AD carry to come in here based on typical draft trends for Red side. Something like the Zeri or the Jinx would have made a lot of sense. The fact that they are still leaving junglers up, I do think that Wukong, after the nerfs, I feel has significantly less impact than what we've been seeing compared to the previous patches, and it seems that teams are much less willing to blind pick it compared to what we've seen in previous patches and domestically.
Well, wasn't Wukong or the Jinx locked in fact, swapped to the Ezreal. I think that's the first time that we've seen here at MSI. Interesting note, by the way, Waka's got 0 games on Jinx this entire year. So hasn't pulled it out just yet, and River's going to go back to the Viego, 3rd time here. But I think a lot of power picks on the side of Golden Guardians, so I'm already starting to see or feel a little bit like every time I've seen this happen, the picks that have the Ahri and the cannon tend to do pretty well.
Yeah, already Golden Guardians grabbing a lot of the power picks they were able to grab yesterday. This time the Viego for River. Obviously, they love playing Gory River 2v2s around mid lane. This is another powerful one that will be looking to make plays, move all over the map. In a lot of ways there, the engine combined with Fuhi for Golden Guardians to make plays in the early game.
PSG have drafted themselves a pretty powerful pushing bot side. I did a bit of research very quickly and found out that Wako, all-time, Ezreal is one of his most played champions, 70% win rate across his entire career with 30 games played. So it seems like in game 1, he's going back to comfort, something that gives him a lot of security. And I think Ezreal Karma is a very safe bot side, typically more towards the weak side, and when you draft the Cassante, it does make you think, well, what is PSG's game plan in the early game? Where is it exactly that they're going to look to try and play around and try and find advantages?
And this is one of the things that has been the question for PSG across this tournament is, can they take their kind of late game, less aggressive play style through this early game phase against the more powerful teams? You saw it not go very well up against G2. They kind of got ran over. Can Golden Guardians do the same thing and just make this game over before all this scaling and team fighting kind of comes online, or they're starting that from too big of a deficit?
I mean, both of these teams have had some pretty dominant wins over the last couple of days, and I think interestingly for like PSG, it's a little bit different, a little bit more impressive than what they did domestically. They're at 14 stats, so it's like plus 800 or so. And I think I genuinely don't know what to anticipate on how these teams are going to stack up against one another, because like, especially even yesterday, it was very heavily one-sided for both squads.
I think that game yesterday gave me a lot more confidence for PSG in this matchup. Their first day against DFM was, they had that game that they probably should have lost. Then they kind of got ran over by G2 a little bit. Wako did have some good performances in that G2 series, but he was kind of the only one. But yesterday it was very, very dominant for this team and made me feel like this would be a much closer matchup. Hopefully we get to see all 5 games. I say that through gritted teeth as a North American fan, but as a general League of Legends fan, hopefully we see a good series.
Varus and Nautilus being taken off the board here. I wonder what bot lane Golden Guardians will be considering. You're a resident Golden Guardian expert, Mark. When you look at this draft, what do you think Stixxay's thinking about right now? Tristana maybe? Or
they got rid of a lot of the common things you tend to see, and from here, Ezreal Karma wins a lot of them. They could go Zeri Rakan, they could go Xayah Rakan, they could go Thresh Jinx. Kai'Sa set was not on the list of things I was going to say, but let's do it.
All right, Golden Guardians bringing out a very heavy dive composition here. Set being one of your primary initiators. Kennen with a great follow-up, assuming he can find a good flank. But basically, all of these champions want to go forward.
I love this. Golden Guardians laying down the gauntlet game 1, saying, you want to play this kind of at-range, pokey bot lane. Instead of finding a similar range-style matchup, we're going to go engage and hopefully get our mid-jungle making plays around the bot lane to attack Wako.
Last lock-in here for Junjia as the Kha'Zix. So, first time that we're seeing the Kai'Sa, first time we're seeing the Ezreal. 2 compositions that look very aggressive, but I feel like there's a little bit more cohesion on what I'm seeing on the Golden Guardians side, pick power on the side of PSG. I mean, when you zoom out, Betty, what do you make of this?
I mean, I think that PSG's early game is very weak. Early game skirmishes are not going to go in their favor, which does concern me when we look at how well Golden Guardians have been able to get early game leads when they're given the priority to do so. Huhi is not afraid to get out on the map. We know that River is more than happy to look for invades, and Gory, with his prio, is more than happy to roam bot and set up some dives. So I think the Golden Guardians have all of the agency to make things happen in the early game. The later the game goes, it does make me wonder how much of a range advantage PSG have over Golden Guardians.
The one thing I will say is Junjia on the Kha'Zix. This is probably, outside Wako, the best performing member. The EDG sub-jungler stepping up a little bit in the G2 series, taking a lesson from Yike this time around. taking the Kazakhs.
I mean, in terms of like kill participation, 93% for Junji. He's got a 30 KDA.
Pretty good.
He is pretty impactful for his squad. And on this Kazakhs, going to be looking for those assassinations. Also, another little tidbit for you. Gory's Ari, across the 2 games that he's played, has not died a single time. So looking very comfortable and impressive on that particular champion. But Vedi, I love the thing you called out, just with regards to the early game and whether or not PSG will be able to sort of weather the storm in some ways. Let's keep our eyes on River. Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else, welcome to Summoner's Rift for Game 1 in this best of 5, the last chance qualifier to the bracket stage. Win, and you join the 7 other teams.
The first best of 5 at MSI, but the final matchup of the play-in stage. Last spot on the line to join the main stage. Draw after this series happens.
I'm excited to see how the rest of MSI plays out. I think play-ins have been very exciting overall. For it to culminate in Golden Guardians versus PSG, I think very much what many expected throughout the play-in stage. I think the big surprises were Golden Guardians taking what was a massive comeback victory over BLG. A lot of people now have, I think, a very different opinion of Golden Guardians as the underdogs. They continue to surprise throughout the year. Perhaps PSG can put a stop to it today.
I like the Golden Guardians evolution on the emote game yesterday, knowing that Loud was playing the second series. They kind of pandered to the audience, flashed a lot of Loud emotes. This time around, River going for the TSM flare. Don't know how popular that still is. I heard a TSM chant, I think on day 1 or day 2. I hear a little bit from the crowd right now, so sounds like still something to use.
I love the performance. Why not? Have some fun in the game as well. In your opponent's head just a tiny bit. No real shenanigans to start off the game. Look, River starting the bottom quadrant. Junji starting on that top quadrant with Archie helping him out. And first Ezreal, first Karma here at MSI. I think on day 1 on the analyst desk, we were talking a little bit about potentially seeing Ezreal, but some of those more like team fight focused ADCs have taken to higher priority. And also first Kai'Sa too. So this will be a fun lane because it's definitely not something you see very often.
I mean, in Europe, we've had the luxury of getting to see a couple of Ezreals. We know how obnoxious they can be in the late game team fights, right? But in early laning phase, typically it can be difficult for Ez to get that prio in lane, but when paired up with a Karma, you have that double range matchup, so much poke, and you're seeing the poke on your screen right now. The level 2 coming out for Wako and Woody. Great damage from PSG. But the Fog of War Observer's highlighting it for is River is in a position to gank. Who he has the flash, he just needs level 2. He should get it off this melee. Oh, no, 1 more minion.
Minion being cleared out there. There's the engage from Huhi. Woody's still got that flash available. Stixxay stepping forward, cleansed out. A breaker forward. River is being chunked out from Wako. Wako now may be the next target. Stun connects. First blood secured by Golden Guardians and River. The shield keeps River alive just enough to get away.
Massive first blood there by River, sort of in reaction to the push that was coming from PSG's bot lane, but probably also a pre-planned play. This is something River has done a ton in the LCS, not as much here on the MSI stage, is going for very different jungle clears to find people at different timing windows. He's a monster at this, on Jarvan in particular, but willing to do it, as you can see, on multiple champions. I thought for sure he was going to be clearing topside to your power point in the map on Kennen, but this shove that Ezreal Karma is always going to go for early on, knowing that they're going to push up this far, there's no way Set and Kai'Sa can contest the level 1 push, so they just go exactly on level 2. River has hit level 3 in this chase down sequence. The patience, getting pelted by Ezreal and the minions the entire time. Karma as well gets very low, but commits, lands that W critically, finding that kill, and then using the Karma Soul shield to make sure he gets out of there alive.
So well done. Some first blood secured and in the hands of the Viego. A little bit of a presence there from Junji, but Corey easily evades.
I will also say, PSG's bot lane really should have just used one of their wards. Both AD carry and support had it available. Trying to set up that early push without taking into consideration a potential early gank. A big oversight, I think, from them. And losing all of those summoner spells now sets up GG very nicely for potential future ganks. They know that Aja is a very difficult lane to play around. Playing Cassandra into Kennen, they can just leave Licorice isolated in this 1v1. He can build his own advantages, and Gory already looking to gain control over the lane. Does miss the charm. Could be an opportunity for a re-engage here from Yubao.
Really good counter trade there. Gory ends up losing a little bit more of his HP. We saw Hui stepping just behind that mid turret, by the way, drop that control ward. That'll give him a little bit of vision as Licorice continues to pressure. So pretty much the top lane playing out as expected. We'll keep an eye on whether that manages to develop in a way that Licorice can take over the game the way that he did previously. But for Gory, just continuing to see, I mean, look at this, trying to push Yubao all the way between the minions.
He is a very aggressive mid laner, always trying to find advantageous trades. And I assume also wanting to get the shove so he can start meeting up with River now that he has completed his first kind of official clear, finally grabbing all that in the top side.
Yeah, if you look underneath his champion icon, you'll see that little pink bar. That indicates how close he is to level 6. And he should just, oh, okay, he's about a minion short of level 6, so it would have been a great opportunity for him to then look for a roam. Vision now invested in the bot side, River for PSG, to track whether Gory and River could be looking for a gank.
Beautiful charm. Just a little bit more poke from that Orb of Deception and a step back. Pretty even CS numbers across the top and mid lane. Small advantage to Wako in the bottom lane, and we're still waiting to see Chunjia really show a little bit more presence. He's level 5 at the moment, small advantage over River. And once he does unlock that ultimate, he can look for some more picks, but hasn't yet found the opportunity.
Yeah, PSG kind of learning their lessons from that first play, getting a lot of wards out around the bot side, a pink ward in River, a normal one in the tri-brush there to make sure that they're safe to push. This is how Ezreal and Karma have to play the lane, so despite the fact that they did give up that first blood, they've reasserted dominance of that lane. Funky look there for a second, but yeah, playing around their kind of power point, make sure that they don't continue to fall behind, that there's no repeat gank follow-up until these flashes come back available. Not too far off now for Woody.
Yeah, I mean, Golden Guardians, they don't really need to force anything super urgently. They still have time. Level 6 is really where you'll be keeping your eyes on any opportunities. Good window here being found by PSG. They expect River to be on the top side of the map, but they know that Gory has just gone back to base with no TP. So with the push that they have in bot lane as well, should be an easy dragon secure very early on. We know that PSG is a slightly slower team when it comes to the early game, but starting to stack up these dragons really sets you up for success to get you those team fights later on in the mid and late game.
I mean, Woody and Wako are doing such a great job with that ranged poke. Every single time we look at Stixxay and Huhi, they're chunked out, they're pushed back, they're doing a relatively good job of maintaining a competitive CS advantage or CS numbers. But that's definitely unlocked that first dragon, and I think for PSG now, going to continue to look for those little skirmishes. I mean, this is the first time that we've seen these teams obviously against one another, 6-4 LCS versus PCS. And I genuinely think both of these teams just playing a little bit reserved, a little bit patient, suss one another out.
Yeah,
haven't had the strongest competition just yet, you know?
No, but very touch and go. I think you saw there's a potential for a bot side dive after the dragon dropped and Stixxay was backing off that turret. PSG instead go for a reset during the time. River was working down a lot of focus on the top side, stealing away the red buff for that commitment, as well as getting some deep wards down there.
You'll notice now Woody going back to base with the Herald spawning in about 20 seconds time. Wouldn't be surprised to see him now getting out on the map and start leveraging PSG's number advantage, because Huhi's not going to have that opportunity to go back to base yet. And already, if you look at the base, you can see Woody making his way down towards mid. Yubao going back to base now, though, does give Golden Guardians this window to set up vision control around the Herald.
I do wonder if Golden Guardians want to fight the Herald. They're much more of a level 6 reliant team, especially with their bot lane and the way that wants to play. And if Huhi can't get 6 prior to moving up to the top side of the map, then it will feel like a difficult fight compared to Ezreal and Karma, who are very happy to just pelt away with Qs.
Now, Woody after that back. Pokes a little bit in middle lane. You can see on bottom, finally Stixxay and Huhi shove the wave up. That back timer from Stixxay from the potential dive you're talking about, Mark, ended up giving Wako a pretty significant CS advantage, and despite PSG,
well, they just conceded
backing, yeah. Golden Guardians in the river, they're going to start this one off. It's completely uncontested, Denny.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised. I would have thought the PSG, given their setup, they had the numbers advantage, want to force this, but I guess they're a little concerned about Licorice's power at this point in the game. They know that Gory just had a base as well. Stixxay coming off the back of a base would have been able to collapse first, as Wako had to go and catch the bot wave. So everything will reset. Golden Guardians with a small advantage gain.
Yeah, Wako being committed to the bot side there makes sense. There's a very big wave. Don't want to lose that one, having to move up to the top side. And once Golden Guardians see him there, Stixxay and Huhi shadow into the river without having to roam all the way up. Get a Rift Herald here, and we'll want to see where Golden Guardians use this one. Obviously, it'd be very nice to accelerate your Kai'Sa. She's basically your biggest late game threat, but I do think there's value in breaking open mid lane turret, trying to make a play around there, and then moving down to bot side. Mid lane has so much pressure over the rest of the map, and so if you can kind of spring Gory free, that's probably going to accelerate your game faster than just getting some extra gold or plates into the pockets of Kai'Sa.
Stepping towards that mid lane, Junja towards bottom. Neither opponent's aware for the time being, and both teams just trying to fish for opportunities, but that's the defensive starts here. Now River moving towards the bottom lane. Recall does in fact complete. That's level 7. for the Viego. Huhi is going to force the flash from Woody. That's a win already. And that means repeat gank the next few minutes. Definitely a target.
Yeah, Junji had the right idea, kind of hovering that brush, but didn't wait out the entire play. Recalls, and that's basically the exact window that Huhi goes flash for flash there.
So team fight at Dragon, is that what we're setting up for here? At this pace, basically?
I was kind of expecting Golden Guardians to be a little bit more aggressive, to be honest. I thought that they would try and threaten a few more dives, but to PSG's credit, they've done a great job of just keeping the push in bot. It has made it hard to really stack up a wave and threaten any real dive bot. And then also there's been so much vision investment on the bot side. You can see our observers highlighting it now. PSG have a lot of vision control that make it that much harder for River and Gory to really find any opportunities, which means that we do need that neutral objective to really start these fights.
I mean, last time we saw this Kha'Zix, Yike was able to create opportunities or punish the top lane, synchronize up with the rest of G2 and have dive after dive. The game hasn't necessarily been played out that way, and Ninja's just power farming for now. Same level as River, not a significant advantage. Does this make you a little nervous with this Kha'Zix, or is it still, he's just ramping up?
I think he's ramping up. Kha'Zix is obviously a champion who, at level 6 onwards, has very good skirmishing potential, but he does continue to scale throughout the game as you unlock more evolutions. When you finally get the resets and team fights, you can start taking those over. As we see that Rip Turtle mid like we were calling for.
Potentially setting up more Dragon. There's a couple of wards placed inside PSG's jungle. Teleport's not available for FLICKR. It is for Archie, who's now being poked out just a little bit. 20 seconds until that Cloud Drake will spawn. I want to see whether either team will kind of rush for it or not. Good counter vision now. The ward's been cleared out by PSG, and I think they're setting this one up. Moving into the river together, pushing that mid lane. Let's hope we get this first big team fight.
Pretty sure Wako just snipes 6 down the back to stop his recall and delay the timer for picking up his Mythic. Does end up getting the Kraken Slayer, but might be a little slow getting back to Dragon. So PSG is going to start this one off, kind of knowing that they had interrupted 6A's recall, and he can't possibly be here if they rush it.
Ooh, about
a little bit of trouble. Caught out. Heartbreaker used. Frozen Tomb to buy some time. Dragon has been secured by PSG, and the charm right out of it from Gory secures the kill. So that's the second for Golden Guardians. Not a large minion wave to work with, and the stolen soul of Lissandra won't find that Ring of Frost. 2 dragons to PSG, 2 kills to Golden Guardians.
Frankly, just a massive overstep from Yubao. Like, he was trying to interrupt the back of Gory there and disrespecting the possibility that River may be hovering around mid. Ends up giving away a free kill that I think they really didn't need to give.
Especially given the context that you know you're getting a free dragon. Like, the jungler's not hovering around the dragon. Maybe he's over the wall looking for a steal, but they had good vision to know that was not the case. Big mistake there by Yubao, handing a kill over to Gory, continuing to accelerate that lead. Now up about 700 gold for Gory. I will say this
immediately picked up as well.
Yeah, huge power spike. I will say for PSG, the saving grace is the dragon stacking. This is something that they love to do, and the overall pace of play has not been that high.
No, I mean, look, it's 2,000 gold here for Golden Guardians, and in the BO5, the final series before bracket stage, this is a little bit more reminiscent of what you see in BO5s at MSI and Worlds of years gone by. It's slow, it's tentative, it's a little bit more pensive. And in comparison to a lot of the series we've been seeing throughout the last few days, it is definitely a few paces down.
Well, like we said, PSG is the lowest combined kills per minute team in the entire tournament, so it's no surprise to see them taking it slow. Even their series yesterday was kind of like that.
Right now, Junjo will get chunked out just a little. River's Heartbreaker is available to him. Uba was moving from the mid lane, but again, no further engage. There wasn't enough support for River, so they just did a little damage and backed away.
And again, PSG just doing a great job when it comes to this vision control. They have wards littered around the bot side of the map. They have so much control, so much safety, so much security that they allow Wacko and Woody to just continue to secure these plates and build advantages in the bot lane 2v2.
Right, exactly. Despite that kind of first blood that came in down there, it is still a pretty hefty gold lead, up above 700 now. For Wacko, going to get a little bit bigger once he finally drops the first third of the game in favor of PSG.
So super quickly, this is a slightly slower paced game. Log in with your rare account and watch MSI and lollysports.com for exclusive MSI drops such as emotes and icons throughout the entire tournament. And since we are at 14 minutes and pretty much dead even as far as the lanes, the towers, a minor gold advantage here for Golden Guardians, we may be setting ourselves up for a 3rd or 4th dragon, just gigantic team fights. And I think in my head, that cannon could be absolutely gigantic. And whether or not Junji and Waka can get away from it and find those picks in the back line.
Yeah, this whole time I've been talking about bot and top and mid and all these things. We
gold up.
Did not cover how far ahead FLICKR has been able to get. Grabbing those turret plates as well as about a 20 CS advantage for himself. And he's kind of the X factor for this game. Find clean engages into this pretty squishy backline on the side of PSG. Yes, you have the Cassante, but he's really the only member who has any significant durability.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is Golden Guardian's comp is dive, right?
Yeah.
It's very straightforward. Set's ultimate, really good at closing the gap. Kai'Sa ultimate, Ari ultimate, Diego ultimate. You get the point, right? Whereas the game plan for PSG is, can you survive that initial dive? If you can, if you leverage some of your mobility, some of your stalls, some of your disengage, and you're able to weather that initial burst, then there's definitely room for PSG to turn the fight around in their favor, leverage some of their range, leverage some of their poke. But it all comes down to where that initial kill comes from. If Diego gets that initial pick, if Kai'Sa gets access to the back line, like, you can see how easy Golden Guardians can run away with the fight.
Keep it simple, Sets. Just follow the all-in, find out whether or not the shotgun fire will actually secure the kill. But I also think I want to keep an eye on whether or not FLICKR will be able to find those angles of entry, because the last time that he did play the cannon, was able to have significant impact with that slicing Maelstrom. There's only one tower down, right? So we haven't really moved into this phase where you're pushing into enemy territory, trying to use this vision right now. Wako Woody just waiting, hoping wherever who he stepped forward. And for PSG, they're going to feel pretty comfortable so far.
Yeah, I really like this lane setup for the side of PSG. You go 1-3-1 right now, and even though the Ahri is a bigger threat than Yuba on the side lane, you also stop Golden Guardians from being able to pressure the mid lane turret by having the Ezreal there and forcing the Kai'Sa to match him mid lane. This is where you had Prio your entire game. You're going to keep that now in mid lane and keep that turret up as the third dragon spawns, making sure Golden Guardians could not drop that one before this third dragon comes up, means that they won't have as much mid Prio as they thought they might have if they had kept a standard lane assignment.
While that's all very smart and very well explained, Mark, I'd really like them to stop punching each other in the face.
This requires bloodshed.
Okay, Betty, 20 seconds until the next dragon. 4 members of Golden Guardians grouped up towards
nice.
mid lane.
Licorice has made his way down.
No teleport for
also there. We've got 5 people, Trevor.
5v5.
We can count.
Vision is a little stronger there for PSG, just behind the Dragon Pit. Thank you to the observers for the toggle. But it is the Guardians inside the river first. So PSG have to step a little bit into that darkness. No TP available just yet. And Dragon has been started there, Betty.
Oh boy, you guys aren't ready for this. You guys aren't ready for the trade mid lane.
What? I mean, this is just pure concession right now. Ungia will fire out those missiles for now. Dragon soloed by River. Tower just about to fall. Frozen Tomb forward. Gory is in trouble. Forced to flash. Spirit rushes away. The shield is huge for Hui. And the slicing Maelstrom gets another kill for the Golden Guardians. That's a follow back, as well as Wako's got a second. And now the third of the fight goes to the Guardians. It's a slightly chaotic start. 2 for 1 in favor of the Guardians.
What looked like a great play out of PSG to just sack Dragon, force mid, get the turret, and keep scaling. They get baited into going on to Gory. They will actually finish that turret off, but a nice fight out of the Golden Guardians will allow them to even out the mid lane turrets there.
I mean, it's literally a fight on 3 different fronts as River, Tower, and the flank over the wall. Dragon was secured by the Guardians. The tower goes to PSG. So net positive, you have to feel a little bit more LCS favored?
It still feels good for both teams. I think at the end of the day, Golden Guardians stops the Dragon stacking out of PSG. They're able to grab the mid lane turret. They win a fight. But at the same time, PSG did not lose too much. Initially, it looks like a clean pickoff potentially onto Gory with this flash ult combo, the Everfrost to follow up on the tail end of it. He's going to be locked in place for a long time, but just barely able to get out of there before the Kha'Zix showed up for the isolation damage. He kind of giving his life up and landing a ton of damage there for the rest of the team, giving FLICKR a potential setup. You see how annoying Exhaust is for the Kennen here. And it looked like it was going to be a very clean fight there, but you know, at the end of the day, PSG still had the Ezreal left up at the end of the fight to grab that turret on the tail end.
Yeah, I think that PSG walk away knowing that they got another kill onto their Ezreal, and he's scaling it very nicely, but the fact that Golden Guardians were able to find a great fight just goes to show that when PSG are the initiators, that's actually a worse position for them to be in, because it makes it so much easier for Golden Guardians to actually get that re-engage. Oh, you want to actually engage onto my set? Cool, that then gives my set an engage onto you, and then the Kennen gets a very easy follow-up. Did, of course, commit Licorice's flash in that exchange, so Golden Guardians likely going to want that back up before they force another fight. But overall, Golden Guardians showcasing the power of their 5 versus 5, and something that PSG will have to be cautious of as they move forward in this game.
And we're definitely talking PSG like they have this massive scaling advantage. To be fair, it's not huge. Obviously,
yeah,
Kai'Sa
exactly.
does scale well. Both mid laners are more utility setup, pick focused, skirmishy junglers, team fighting topsides, and a lot of it is going to be about execution. Does Golden Guardians get this engage cleanly, or is Waku going to survive it and then be able to pelt them from the outside of the fight?
What will be also very valuable is to get a better look at sort of late game decision making, macro around the map. We haven't had a sort of game state for either of these squads here at MSI. that's played out this way. We've seen both of them have impactful early games. They were very respectful, very hesitant. And now with the second tower falling for Golden Guardians, the map will be a little bit wider, a little bit more open, which I think, in theory, could potentially open up some possibilities for PSG. If you look at the likes of the Kha'Zix or the Ezreal in mobility, potentially looking for picks.
Going big picture, looking at the rest of the series based off game one, this is why people were kind of debating, is it PSG or Golden Guardians who are going to get the last slot coming into this event? And then it kind of swung Golden Guardians' way as we see pick-off potential.
There's a hop over the wall, immediate flash there, and River has escaped with his life. Very good reaction time. Gory, Spirit rushes forward. The charm connects onto Woody, but there's no follow-up just yet. And all of a sudden, it fizzles once more. Looking for those picks, but it's just not enough to stick it.
A little over-ambitious there from Gory. Does connect the charm, but onto Woody, and it was very difficult for the rest of Golden Guardians to follow up. That's an ultimate down now. With the Dragon spawning in about a minute and a half, he should have that back in time. A lot of fighting over the river between two teams. And that is not intended to be a pun. But
It's very difficult.
It's a difficult one when PSG are actually so very good at controlling the space and making it difficult for their opposition to access these neutral objectives.
I mean, both top laners also have that teleport available. They were trading in the bottom lane. Still a significant advantage there for FLICKR as he's pushing the way forward, but has he stuck around just a little too long? Void Assault is available for Junjia. Fish lose that belt, dash a little forward, all out, gets knocked into the wall, may be able to pick up the solo kill before Junjia can arrive, and it will be bounced back 1-for-1 in the bottom lane.
Nice trade there by FLICKR after getting collapsed on top of finishing off Aja before Junjia get in range.
Here's the claw, will put some distance away. Beautiful charm, instantly cleansed. Foxfire is out, and River can't connect with the CC, so Ubao escapes for now.
No flash for River. The fact that was forced out in the previous pickoff attempt by TSG might have just saved Yubao's life there. Otherwise, you have to imagine River would have flashed with the stun there, maybe forced Yubao's flash out as well. Instead, everyone disengages.
How much faith do you have in Golden Guardians' late game as we're ramping up to these very 2, 3, 4 item team fights?
I'm relatively confident in it. Golden Guardians is a well-rounded team in the sense that they have a lot of people who can carry. As you see, FLICKR getting this 1-for-1 here. They have interesting drafts and generally good team fighting. But I think that's also PSG's strength. They have seemed to get better the longer these games go on, both domestically and in this tournament. So it is definitely going into the wheelhouse of what PSG feels comfortable doing.
Now, Dragon has been started by PSG. I saw in-game FLICKR pinging his ultimate, still about 20 seconds away, but Golden Guardians making the choice to force the Baron. PSG recognize that this is happening and they're looking to try and respond. Junjia has now arrived, and this will actually force PSG off the neutral. They know that Aja doesn't have the teleport, so they're not going to take the gamble and have him solo it.
For the fight, Charm was a little short. Flank potential is there for Huhi, trying to find that angle while Junjia's on the Dragon.
I do think that you could just send Wako there, though. If you're really that concerned, he does still have the TP. Ezreal shouldn't have an issue when it comes to soloing this, as GG look for a fight.
Here comes River, caught Aji, gets shield punched, and Ubao steps out. Not the right engage, not the right grouping, so Dragon number 3 goes the way of PSG. Golden Guardians straight back to Baron.
Yeah, Golden Guardians trying to bait PSG off the Dragon initially while waiting for FLICKR's ult to come off cooldown, but PSG initially reacts, then goes mid lane, leaves 4 there, leaks out Junjia, a very strong champion for soloing down the Dragon, grabbed that one very easily, and PSG have continued their Dragon stacking ways. That's something they love doing.
Huhi's looking for that flank, still has the showstopper. Pull Junjia backwards, claw goes out, team's starting to trade sides. PSG pushing towards the middle lane, and some of this indecision or inability to get onto PSG may cause a problem for the Golden Guardians.
I mean, Golden Guardians are scrambling right now. They're really trying to find a fight, and PSG are just not giving it to them. If you want to credit PSG for anything, it is their ability to stall. They're a team that is great at playing patiently, and they won't feel the need to overforce anything. Golden Guardians have lost their window to really force that Baron. And now, as PSG get that push in...
He's still there, by the way.
Oh,
He's still there. The showstopper comes out, but FLICKR is too far away. He gets enough shield to survive for now. And the potential was available. Forces the flash out of Huhi. FLICKR was too far away. Huhi had an opportunity. I mean, Betty, help me understand here. Is this good macro? Is this like, because I can't quite get a grasp on how I feel about this very pensive play.
Basically, Golden Guardians were late in terms of the Dragon setup. The fact that PSG had started it first, Golden Guardians then said, well, we need to use the Baron to either force PSG to come and fight us, or we need to use it to commit this Baron down. They weren't expecting, I think, PSG to just immediately sack the Dragon and then come and contest them. So in a 5v5 mid, they tried to find the fight, but this is something we were talking about earlier. PSG have great range and poke that they can keep leveraging.
Oh my word, they've managed to find a pick onto Junjie, who just waltzed into the River. River goes forward once again. That burst damage is massive. The resets are so valuable. And now with 2 kills secured, Golden Guardians considering that Baron.
Heads up play by River there, never actually resetting, staying in there the entire time, finding the kill into Junjie, no jungler. The follow-up onto Wako means this is basically uncontestable by PSG. Massive play by the mid-jungle combo of Golden Guardians.
And after 25 minutes of very defensive play, that one decision to not recall, to not back, maybe lulling PSG into a sense of security, they just walked into the River and got jumped on.
Yeah, River's positioning was something that PSG were not expecting at all. Junjie is not on a champion that can easily face check, and Golden Guardians convert that into a Baron. They must have felt very frustrated after the last play, not being able to find a good fight, losing their flash onto Huhi. The fact that River was able to make his way in here and that Gory was able to quickly follow up. Look, no hesitation there. The flash from him. Stixay committing the ultimate as well.
Oh, the
and
shift
this commitment
forward.
here. Oh, River, of course, commits the flash as well into the isolation Q damage from his own jungler. FLICKR now in a bit of danger.
A little bit. Throws out the ultimate. 2 members on him for now. Slicing Maelstrom's done a lot already. And Archer gets the kill. He's made it out for now. Charm, fantastic. Wako's now running for his life. Exhaust will buy some time. River steps forward with that Heartbreaker and continuing to chase. The tower still standing. 26 minutes in with Baron-empowered minions. 4 members of Golden Guardians will secure the tower. And PSG are low. They're going to be forced to reset, get back to base. And with the minion line still there, Golden Guardians could look for another.
Nice pick off by PSG there, but not healthy enough on the tail end of it to actually defend the push quite yet. 4v5, they're still going in. FLICKR is up at 20. Will have TP when he rises.
Hex Flash is available for Huhi. Ultimate is available as well. And with that cannon minion, they're starting to chip away. They're looking for it. Junjie is going to make his way out of the base. He's on the steps for now. That's the engage. Pulled forward. Showstopper down. Oh, she's pushed backwards. Gory's trying to get the damage out, but too many members of PSG stepping forward. Stixay manages to take him down with the Acathian Rain. The minions have been cleared out, so the tower still stands. Another pick. After 25 minutes of defensive play, now Golden Guardians are building up the tempo and throwing themselves at PSG.
Looks scary for a second there. Aja with the 3-man Q knocked backwards, but it baits Wako to his second mispositioning in the late game here again, stepping too far forward. Stixay's Q finishing him off during that time. FLICKR as well, trying to get the mid lane tear down, but Golden Guardians make good use of this Baron buff, growing up to a 6,000 gold lead, a 4,000 gold power play on the tail end.
I think the Golden Guardians are really good at pushing their advantage when they've gotten it. And I think that the fact that they were able to find a tier 2 tower on the bot, huge credit to them. The Dragon spawns in 30 seconds. They know they need to reset for this objective. Otherwise, it could be a soul for PSG and a way back for them into this game.
Plus 3,500 gold here for the Red Bull Baron power play. And looking at Junjie on this Kha'Zix, I haven't seen the impact on the game. By contrast, like Rivers Viego in the fights, having a big impact with that ult with the resets. And I just think now, as PSG are starting to fall behind, to be pushed further and further back, it may be a little more challenging. If you look at the minimap though, multiple members of PSG, they're pushing that top lane. Ooh. I don't think this little experiment has worked out. The tower is going to fall. Nobody from PSG is in base to defend just yet. The inhibitor is just going to be completely conceded.
Really nice bluff call by Golden Guardians there. I think PSG is assuming that they're just going to use the tail end of their Baron buff to get Prio in order to go to the Dragon. Yep. And PSG's like, great, we'll flip side to the top side of the map because we can sack a Dragon. Golden Guardians just saying, nah, we're using the end of this Baron to get mid in him.
Really great awareness there from Golden Guardians. They find themselves another advantage. They will secure the Dragon as well, sub 30 minutes. And it's the Guardians that have firm control over this game. A slow back and forth in the early game, but I think this is where Golden Guardians look the most comfortable, and that might seem like a silly thing to say. When a team is ahead, they look good. But I think the Golden Guardians have, one of the things I felt that we saw in their finals against Cloud9 was that they could get these leads, but sometimes it could be challenging for them to consistently close those leads out. And I think that throughout this tournament especially, we've seen them grow and develop in terms of that mid-game control. And it was even FLICKR saying in an interview that as long as they can get that early game better under control, then they believe in their ability to close out in the mid to late game. And right now, their setup around Baron is good. You imagine that the next play is keep control of a mid, push out top, get control of a topside vision, and then start playing towards this Baron. Ideally, they want to find a pick and they don't want to go for a gamble 50-50, especially against a champion like Carson.
I mean, both of the picks that have led to the big advantages here for the Golden Guardians have come from what felt like a bit of a surprise to PSG. That River pick where he delayed his back, the Baron push, catching PSG off guard. Either very, very good calls here from Golden Guardians kind of in the heads, or surprising PSG, or maybe PSG just a little bit rattled. Because right now they're being pushed back. You can see this potential setup, a minute 20 for Baron, so wards being established, and they will be able to use that objective to bait them back.
And this is just perfect setup from Golden Guardians right now. Ideally, they need to get bot under control a little bit. They could send Gory to go and catch that wave, knowing that he does have TP. But right now, their priority is playing through 2 lanes. They're keeping mid pushed in, they're keeping top pushed in, and they're remaining in the topside jungle looking for picks, seeing if anyone from PSG oversteps. You'll see who he has just done a reset. He's picked himself up more wards. And Golden Guardians in firm control around this Baron. Now, they just need to not throw it away.
Thanks for the caster curse, Vedius. I appreciate it. FLICKR just got his TP back up in a couple of seconds here, so that's why he had been grouped up with the team. Baron wasn't up yet either. Now that it's 30 seconds towards Baron, his TP is almost up. He's going to start pressuring down this bot side, try and pull PSG a little bit apart here. Nice ward clearing on the side of Golden Guardians, making use of that Umbral Glaive out of Jinji. It's very hard to keep wards up if you're not actively defending them on the side of Golden Guardians.
Yeah, because PSG now have to use their turn to try and re-clear some of that vision, especially with FLICKR investing time down towards the bot side of the map. He's now gotten that initial push in. Now he's looked to regroup with the team. And now that PSG don't have any wards left, this is Golden Guardians' opportunity to clear out all of that vision and make it completely dark on the top side of the map.
Does feel like Gory and River have been the 2 key playmakers for Golden Guardians. Worth noting that both of them spend time in the PCS, time with PSG. The ones that got away, getting the leads for Golden Guardians here.
I mean, Gory's still deathless on this Ahri. 3rd game in MSI. Baron is pulling PSG towards Golden Guardians. Huhi, flashes available. Showstopper's up as well. He's managed to find unique angles to engage, but this time around, PSG aware. They've split themselves up. They've got very good defensive vision, and the objective has not yet been started.
Now, I will say Golden Guardians have conceded a lot more space, and I don't love this Baron because of how much of a flip they're creating. There is still a control ward in the back of the pit. Junjia has clear access for a steal.
It's going pretty low, 6,000 hit points. Flash as well as Maelstrom is available. Teleport coming in for FLICKR from behind. Wako and Junjia, the 2 targets, but it's Wako that's taken down. FLICKR gets the kill. Ubar's now being running back, retreating for his life. PSG surprised once more.
Nice flank there, finding the kill into Wako, but he's the only one that dropped, and it cost them 3 ultimates to make it happen. Not sure if Golden Guardians want to restart onto this Baron without many tools to actually lock down Junjia. They're going to go for it, bring them back in. PSG moving into contest.
Showstopper's still up for Huhi. Maybe need to use that, get rid of the jungler. Turns his attention to Woody, pulled out of the pit. 5 members of Guardians. 17 seconds for Wako. Teleport is available. He's also got that true shot barrage. Baron is now down 4,000, 3,000. The claw goes forward. 1,000. Baron secured by Golden Guardians. Huhi engages, catches Woody, and Junjia is burnt down, running away once more. Arches the next target. Teleport's coming forward. Wako, can he finish this off for PSG? Is it too little or too late? River's going low. Heartbreaker's out. Woody's now going to fall, and Wako's running for his life. Junjia throws out those missiles, hops over the wall with the arcane shift. Heartbreaker once more. River's dropped, and Wako will be the final kill. Huhi steps forward and punches him in the face. 1 last kill for Golden Guardians, and the ace. They turn their attention to the Nexus.
5 for 2, victory for Golden Guardians. A mid-wave already shoving in after grabbing that inhibitor turret. The teleport's going to come in to try and end this game.
A beautiful fight from PSG as they fall short to Golden Guardians. It looked like a good opportunity. It looked like it could have gone so heavily in PSG's favor, but Golden Guardians stamped their authority. They stamped their victory, and they're looking to go 1-up in this series.
Golden Guardians pick up the first win, the best of 5. 1 step closer to that bracket stage. And I'm going to be honest, that was an interesting game to watch. That final fight, had Wako had arrived a couple seconds earlier, may have been able to have more of an impact, but definitely not what I was expecting, definitely not the tempo that I was anticipating, and the way that it ended with so many of those unique approaches to the teleports and plays. I want to see what PSG do as a reply.
I mean, I think the Golden Guardians, in terms of draft, got everything that they wanted. Yeah. I think that they played the fights very well, and huge credit. They've had some great teleport flanks. FLICKR once again having massive impact in these games. I was concerned with how much vision they were conceding in the topside jungle, and I felt like that this was a mistake, and I do wonder if this was part of their master plan to leave that single ward in to allow for a TP flank for the Kennen, because that really cemented the game victory for Golden Guardians.
It does feel like a game where, in a lot of ways, PSG was able to execute on their own game plan in terms of slowing the pace of play down, stacking the dragons. It was just these little moments where Golden Guardians found their angles, the first blood, the river camp in the brush, and then that TP flank for the Baron. If these little moments go differently, it's very easily a PSG game.
I mean, it'll be intriguing to look back because PSG did a pretty good job at clearing all of Golden Guardians' wards out from that top quadrant of the jungle. But obviously that very, very deep ward just a little bit missed. Was it a really good play, really decisive one, or a small mistake? Either way, Golden Guardians
They made it work, and that's all that matters.
They
you know what I mean?
made it work.
You get the dub, you don't look back at it. What's VOD review? You instantly start talking about game 2.
And the question is, with that Kennen still picking up a win, but not necessarily have the same level of impact, in Golden Guardians, now that they are going to potentially be on that red side, do they risk it? Do they ban it away?
I mean, it didn't like 1v9 the game, but it had a massive gold lead on its own. It found a number of team fights. They tried to attack it in the side lane. FLICKR was able to find a 1v1 trade kill out there. So like, this is a champion that I think PSG took a risk on leaving up, and they learned their lesson.
For me, it's just this Ahri plus River on something that can do stuff champion duo. Like, I think that you can't afford to give Gory something that has this much agency. You saw how much push he had in mid, how well he was working with River, and how quickly he could follow up on those picks. I think you have to take this Ahri away from
We're going to find out what the plan is after the next segment with the Analyst Desk. We'll break down game number 1.
Thank you, Quick Shot. Golden Guardians take the first game here. And Odo, thank you for joining us on the desk.
My pleasure.
Congrats, making it to MSI. I'll spare you the jokes of Excel making it to MSI, and we'll go straight into the draft discussion here, because GB, we set up the fact that GG could be creative, PSG could be creative also, and we got a lot of new picks here for this game.
We certainly saw a lot of new things as well coming through with it. Warco's Ezreal, it's its second most played champion coming into this series. Medic gave me the good stat that 70% win rate for him as well in that regard. But I think it was very interesting. It's been a while since we've just seen Ezreal, Karma to come through, and even more interesting to see a set be locked into against it. You kind of have to flip it. Golden Guardian still did it, but very interesting new draft. I don't know if you have any takeaways straight from it.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I think the set pick didn't really make a lot of sense, or the comp didn't make a lot of sense, because I think Ezreal was a monster pick this game, but I think it was paying off very, very well up until the point where they made a mistake around Nashor. But up until that point, I felt like Ezreal was going to take over the game, and I don't know, Kai'Sa didn't really make a lot of sense into it, but they pulled it off.
Let's take a look at the breakdown, maybe post-game, to see how this game was paced weirdly, as the caster said. And GB, we've been used to PSG being not proactive in the early game. That was the case of this again, which allowed maybe GG to come back later on. But what did you think about the early game and how it played out?
I think it was very slow-paced. I think Golden Guardians was actually really happy with the fact that it became as slow-paced as it did. I think when you had insta or perma-bot prio from the side of PSG, they could have used that a bit more cleverly. I think Kha'Zix never really got ahead, and it kind of turned into this weird state where it's not necessarily there wasn't anything happening in between objectives, but there certainly wasn't happening as much as there would be when the objectives was up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the early gank from Viego was monumental for GG to slow it down, because otherwise Ezreal and Karma were going to take over the lane very well. And I also think that when it came to the Herald timer, I think PSG bot lane made one mistake where GG just got the Herald for free, which I think, I don't know, given how Karma and Ezreal were taking over the lane, it should have been at least slightly more contested.
We've talked about the opportunities as PSG should have seized, rather they didn't, which played in the favor of Golden Guardians here, leading to the 17-minute team fight, where when you're not proactive enough and GG can create opportunities, this is what happens for them. I'll let you go through this fight, GB.
Me and Oda was watching this clip back, and in the beginning of it, you can clearly see that it's actually been on the side of PSG that's been stacking up a lot of Drakes that have 2 for themselves. But Golden Guardians somehow break it apart, and they get the prio first. But something interesting will happen here, right, Odo?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, because here there is a mid wave right there. They're choosing not to contest it, and they're kind of luring PSG to walk into the river, because if you look at GG's think form, they don't really have a lot of teamfight power. They only have a lot of flanks with the Ahri and the Kennen, and given the position, Kennen is just sitting on a flank the whole time and waiting for PSG to walk in. But now that the Drake is gone, GG thinks they can just safely walk back to mid lane, and then PSG finds a scrap fight, which I think came kind of like out of thin air, but they're not really committed. Kha'Zix, I felt like he had a great opportunity to jump in, but I guess he's just scared of the set re-engage, but I still feel like it was a missed opportunity for PSG to grab something out of that play.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, do you think it came down to the decision-making or the lack of, rather the hesitation in the decision-making as well in a play like that?
I mean, I just think they were unsure of the situation, because normally you would see them, you know, trade into top side, walk into top, get the tempo fast, but they were looking for a pick back on the way to mid lane, and I just think there was a lot of hesitation. I think the Lissandra just saw an opportunity, and they're like, you know, probably saying, look, this is a good fight or something, and then everyone's like, it just came out of nothing, you know, and then people are not really ready to pull the trigger over there.
For sure, and I think that was one of the reasons why the game became more messy for PSG too. While they had opportunities to take control of the game, they became sloppy, and a few of the individuals just started getting caught too.
Yeah, hesitations, a few mistakes, few slip-ups on their side leading to the Baron, and for me, when GG got the lead, they didn't let it go, and PSG was not even able to fight back.
Yeah, I think for sure that this is the big one as well, because it's kind of random, isn't it? It's just a normal setup. You're just waiting in the bush, Kha'Zix walking face first in, and that's just a huge pickup. Gory coming in quickly to pick up the kill.
Yeah, I think Kha'Zix just missed, I don't know, he just didn't think of his tempo that well. I think he thought that they are ahead of tempo probably, and they thought they could just walk in and then sit on the brush, you know, just throw Kha'Zix W and everything and take control of the situation. But it didn't work like that, because if they're behind in tempo and they don't have Cassante to face shake the brushes, their comp has nothing.
So resetting for the next game, PSG chose blue side, as it would be expected here. What kind of improvements and adaptation do we want to see, both in draft and in game, maybe in the way they approach the game plan?
Yeah, I also think there's a lot more freedom that's going to be let open for PSG now that Golden Guardians has to go on red side. There's a couple more bans that you have to throw out yourself. I don't actually imagine that Golden Guardians themselves would like to play against the Kennen. I think that's like one of the red side bans, because even in this game it was hard to counter, but it also allows you to get Junji on a Kindred, have the Galio ready as well if that's what you're looking into. And so far both teams have been very good at bringing different compositions, so it's hard to pinpoint what exactly will happen, but I'm sure we'll see a lot of adaptations coming through from PSG.
Odo, what do you want to see in game 2?
Yeah, I mean, I still think their draft was okay, you know, in this game. It's just they had one slip-up, because they, even though they had a bad early game, they kind of took control of the game back in mid-game, and it was just one slip-up. They lost Baron. But now they're in the driver's seat with blue side. I would like to see Kennen, if they can get it. Of course, this game, it has been kind of, you know, a sleeper strong pick. We didn't really see a lot from him, but just being able to be uncounterable in laning phase and pretty much set your team up for the first 10 minutes to do very well, I think it's going to be super strong for them on blue side if they can get it.
Well, let's see what happens next as the Golden Guardians continue their underdog story and take game 1 in this best of 5 on their way to the bracket stage. We'll be back for game 2 right after this.
Breaker forward, River is being chunked out from Wako. Wako now may be the next target. Stun connects, first blood secured by Golden Guardians and River. The shield keeps River alive just enough to get away.
I'm hitting the front, It's not bad, it's not bad. It's good, go.
Oh, too many members of PSG stepping forward. Stixxay manages to take him down with the Acathian Rain. The minions have been cleared out, so the tower still stands.
Come. I can ult. Nice! Baron in turn! Kill this guy.
Golden Guardians pick up the first win. Best of 5. One step closer to that bracket stage.